We've got an incredibly special guest with us today. I want to introduce Mr. Jim Cornelison to us. Let's give him a round of applause. If you guys are, if you're Blackhawks fans, you know who this guy is. He's gonna sing the national anthem for us here in a little bit. And I want to ask you, when that time comes, even in your classrooms, we're going to stand as he sings the national anthem, and we're going to applaud Blackhawk style, and we're going to kind of raise the roof a little bit, and we'll have some fun with that. Mr. Lehman is going to read a proclamation about Veterans Day for us, and so I'm going to invite you on up to do that, and we're going to get started.
Veterans Day 2020, a proclamation from the President. Our nation's service members, past and present, and their families represent the very best of America, motivated by patriotism and love of country. Our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, Coast Guardsmen, and space warfighters serve at home and abroad with professionalism, ingenuity, integrity, and devotion. Their families always stand beside them in their missions, and they transition into civilian life together. During National Veterans and Military Families Month, we celebrate the loved ones of our country's men and women in uniform and recognize their sacrifices that they have made in support of our nation's heroes. Too many veterans carry painful memories and bear physical and emotional scars from their service. We will never forget our veterans who are suffering from mental health issues or the military families that are left behind by veteran suicide. As president, I have prioritized changing the culture surrounding mental health and promoting a society that recognizes the infinite value and purpose of every life. Last year, I mobilized every available federal resource to develop and implement the President's roadmap to empower veterans and end a national tragedy of suicide. I also fought for and secured a record $8.6 billion in funding for mental health services in the most recent Department of Veterans Affairs appropriations bill. In October, I signed the Commander John Scott Hannon Veterans Mental Health Care Improvement Act, which will bolster these efforts even further. Like never before, we are using a whole-of-government approach to better understand and prevent suicide. No American warrior should ever be forgotten, and no military family should ever be left behind. Since the beginning of my administration, it has been a top priority of my solemn pledge to honor, equip, and protect our service members, veterans, and their families. My commitment has not wavered. America's military might is essential to our safety, prosperity, and national security. Caring for the brave Americans in our armed forces and their families, and upholding our sacred obligation to those who have served with honor is the least we can do for those who have given so much for so many. This month, we pledge our gratitude to every man and woman currently serving this nation in uniform, to all our veterans who helped preserve and defend our precious freedom, and to every family member who shares in the service and sacrifices of military life. My administration will never stop fighting to enhance and improve the quality of life for these exceptional Americans. Now, therefore, I, Donald J. Trump, President of the United States, do hereby proclaim November 2020 as National Veterans and Military Families Month. I encourage all communities, all sectors of society, and all Americans to acknowledge and honor the services, sacrifices, and contributions of veterans and military families for what they have done and for what they do every day to support our great nation.
Thank you, Mr. Lehman. Let's stand together now as we hear the national anthem.
Good morning, everybody. Very happy to be here. I understand we're going to do this Blackhawk style.
Let's do it.
All right. So those of you who have been to a game and really understand what that means, maybe show the others how it's really done. All right. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn dawn's early light, what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the
All right, you can be seated. I want the puck to drop right now, man. I am ready. Oh, man.
Ready to go hit somebody?
Oh, let's do it. Let's do it. Oh, Jim, thank you so much. It's so great
My
to have
pleasure.
you here with us today. Really, as we celebrate a very important time in the life of our country, a time that we can celebrate our veterans and those who are serving. And we're going to get to that in a second. But I just, out of curiosity, when I was in high school, and I know for us as high school students here now, never at career day was an anthem singer a possibility. I never experienced that at career day. So I just wanted to know if you might tell us a little bit how this came about and how this became what you do.
It was never a career that I imagined in my life ever. I have 3 Stanley Cup rings from the championships with the Blackhawks, right? And I'll look at those sometimes and wonder how in the world did that happen for me. So I grew up in a small town, was not an overambitious youth, a little bit, troubled, went to college, and I kind of got into music because it was something I always did as a kid that kind of helped me process life and process emotion. Kept me out of a lot of trouble, playing the piano or whatever. But when I didn't really sing until I went to college and joined the choir. I was studying piano, and at the end of that year, the guy sat me down and he said, hey Jim, are you serious about music? And I said, yeah, I think so. I really like it. And he said, well, you're not a very good piano player. so he said, but if you are serious, you should think about studying voice. So I grew up in a small town. I didn't know what that meant. It's like, study voice. What are you talking about? I mean, either you can sing or you can't. So I started studying voice, and then doors just started opening up. Scholarships to schools, singing with Seattle Opera. Did my master's at Indiana in opera performance, and then eventually ended up after a couple of different apprentice programs at the Lyric Opera of Chicago, and that was when I started doing a few anthems every year for the Blackhawks. But that was a different story, right? Because they were not on TV, they weren't very good. You'd go to a game and there was like 8,000 or 10,000 people in a 22,000 seat house. So a completely different thing. 2008, they asked me to do all the anthems. I had given up singing opera at that time to hold a marriage together. And then I knew I'd be around. So, why not? Why not take the journey, right? And it turned into something I never expected. It's been incredible.
I love that. I don't know what you aspire to do, students. I mean, being an anthem singer, I mean, now it's a career. I mean, you can do it, but it's just so.
I'm not sure I would aspire to that. I think you need a bigger plan than just that one.
Okay, we'll take that, and that's completely fine. Well, it's just there's just even some things that you said in there that are so important for us to hear. I love the fact that you have 3 Stanley Cup rings with the Blackhawks, and I think it says a lot to us of what it means to be a part of a team. We talk about that a lot at Wheaton Academy of loving one another and encouraging one another and being a part of a team. And Jim has become a part of that team. I don't know that a Blackhawks game would even be the same to watch it now without hearing him doing the national anthem. So let me ask this as kind of a follow-up question. Obviously, if you studied opera, there's a number of things that you've done, but now you're kind of known for singing the national anthem or "O Canada." How do you kind of keep that fresh, and how do you keep that meaningful to sing the same thing over and over? How do you keep that fresh?
Well, after I quit singing opera, it was a big hole in my life. And coming into singing for the Blackhawks was great. We started winning Stanley Cups right away. There was a lot of excitement around the city, a lot of charity events and parties, and just the whole revelry that went around that, right? That never really did it for me, honestly. I mean, singing opera was something that really filled me with a sense of purpose. It was artistic expression. It was something that, I mean, I'd wake up and translate German text from, 1800s, and I'd be excited about it. It's pretty nerdly stuff. Pretty far cry from, playing hockey or Stanley Cup rings. So it took a while for me to find a sense of purpose again with it, because all that revelry, all that excitement, I felt in a way like that was not my life. Hockey player. I didn't grow up with hockey, never played hockey in my life. So I felt like, I'd washed up on a foreign shore and there's this celebration going on and I'm there, but I'm looking at people who are just, it's not my celebration, right? Yeah. I joined in, I had fun. Yeah. But, so it took a while to get into it and really what brought that around to feeling a sense of purpose is what you need, by the way, in order to keep things fresh. You need that sense of purpose and meaning when you get up each day. And what really restored that was really the interactions with children, but mostly veterans.
Yeah, so we want to hear more about that. I know that wasn't at the beginning of singing national anthems for the Blackhawks, the work with veterans. Tell us about how that came about and how your work with veterans came about, and what your organization does.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, well, the organization was really something that came much later. So to get into the connection with veterans, I'm all for the arts, by the way. Before I say this, I just want to put that out as a disclaimer. It's kind of a selfish life because you're pursuing your own imagination, your own talents, and you're thinking of self-expression mostly. And when I started doing the anthem, it's just veterans started to reach out to me, and they would come to me with things. And one example is coming off the ice very early on. A fella grabbed me as I got to the top of the aisle, and he said, "Hey, would you come over and say hi to my brother? He just got back from Afghanistan, and he can't come over. He's in a wheelchair." And I said, "Oh, that's cool. Let's go over and say hi." And on the way, he's telling me, well, he lost both legs. He's blind in one eye, and he just really wanted to talk to you. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to say to this guy? This is like the first time ever, right? And I'm the kind of guy who can faint. Sight of blood. I mean, I was 10 years old. I went to the doctor and they pricked my thumb for a blood test and I passed out, So I'm going over there. I'm starting to get hot. I don't know what I'm going to say. And I just think, just hold it together. You owe it to this guy. Just go over and say hi. Well, there was nothing to worry about because as soon as I got over there, he was just so gracious. "Oh, Jim, thanks so much for what you do, man. Thanks for coming over. Don't ever stop." And, we used to watch you overseas and, it just means so much to us. I really feel proud of being American. And like this guy's going on and thanking me. And I'm like, God, are you kidding me? How are you thanking me? I stand on the ice and I get patted on the back. People buy me free beers. I mean, what in the world? How are you thanking me for what I do? Thank you. And honestly, I mean, we talked for a while. I asked him where he was from, where he'd been stationed, tried to have, like a normal conversation, and we did. But after that was done, I went somewhere in the United Center, and I cried. I just, I couldn't believe that he was expressing that to me sitting there without legs and one eye, blind. So that's just one story of how this thing started.
Yeah. What an incredible story of having to express gratitude. And here we are sitting in the month of November, headed towards Thanksgiving, and receiving that gratitude when you felt like it was more deserved somewhere else. That's just such a beautiful picture.
Well, people will ask me what I do, and I'll say, well, I sing the national anthems for the Blackhawks. But honestly, that's not really what I do. And it's very hard to put it into words. So that's why, I told you I'm writing a book, and it's called Beyond the Anthem, Stories That Unite Us. And it's kind of that story of what else goes on in my life. I mean, the anthem, I can sing about 1 minute and 38 seconds. It's pretty accurate, that timing, because you got to have it there for the jets when they fly by, right? And it's my Big Mac. I do it the same way over and over and over again, and people really identify with it. But coming to understand what that anthem means has been eye-opening. So an email that I've talked about a lot of times that I got was, "Dear Jim, thank you so much for what you do. My son is in the Navy. Every time I come to a Blackhawk game, I feel like 20,000 people are cheering for him." Now, imagine what that means to that father if he loses his son. Or imagine what it means to the son if he loses a leg. Then when they come there, they're reminded of the meaning for their sacrifice. And why is that important? Well, Friedrich Nietzsche said, if you can understand the why, you can endure any how. If you understand why, the meaning or purpose of your loss and sacrifice and pain, you can endure any how of how you live. And that would be that man with 2 legs missing and blind in 1 eye. And then I just want to share one other with you that I received very recently. And that's why, excuse me, I have this out. Don't get old. Good luck with that. Dear Jim, this is just through my website, by the way, completely random, but I get this stuff with some regularity. To this day, I still suffer from tremendous grief from my memories of 9/11. My life, like many, was changed forever that day. I had a couple Army buddies in the Pentagon that day, one family friend who didn't make it. Been deployed a few times in response to 9/11 and have sat in the 9/11 Memorial Chapel at the Pentagon. I know there are others out there who were hurt worse in 9/11, but those memories always come flooding back around 9/11 each year. But one thing I often do around this time of year is listen to you sing the national anthem, specifically you singing on the 10-year anniversary of 9/11 at Soldiers Field. I've kind of used your rendition of the national anthem as kind of a balm to my soul over the years, and wanted to say, thank you, Austin. So, if you received those emails, what would you do? Are you going to respond to that? I bet you would. Both my parents were World War II vets. 3 uncles were World War II vets. I grew up with a sense of what sacrifice is, because the sacrifice and the war around World War II was something on a level beyond anything that we've seen since, and hopefully won't again, though we probably will. Very often I look at things people say and talk about with war on terrorism, war on drugs, even, I see it as hyperbole very often because the level of sacrifice. World War II was so great. And I understand. My father was burned in a Jeep wreck in World War II. He had skin grafts. He didn't have an earlobe on this side, and you could see where they'd taken grafts off of this. He was a piano player. They took the skin, put it on his hands, and he would start playing the piano, and he'd get frustrated after 10 or 15 minutes because he didn't have flexibility. He couldn't do what he knew he could do. So when you grow up with those senses of sacrifice, of gasoline and sugar rationing and the changes in the workforce that required, women working in Boeing, putting planes together, and, Reva the Riveter, right? Yeah. I mean, these are iconic things that happen from sacrifice. I know I'm rambling on.
No, it's so good. We just have so much to be. There's so much to be thankful for those who have served and are serving. My grandfather served in World War I, and I have two uncles that served in World War II, and so I understand. I kind of get that feeling of sacrifice and trying to put yourself in that place and being an inspiration to others and just being consistent in doing that. I know for young people, and you think forward in your career and what am I going to do and what am I going to become and how exciting is it going to be, and this is just a picture of faithfulness, being faithful to the purpose that God has given you and how meaningful that can be to people.
Well, if we're going to bring God into it, then let me say this. These people sacrifice so much, and the cost is highly human. If, because of politics or religion, you insulate yourself by wrapping yourself in ideology and say, I'm right, they volunteered, it's their problem. That's the opposite of grace. That's judgment. These people have suffered tremendously, and I can guarantee you that the man who wakes up every morning without his legs, goes to bed every night without his legs, he has thought about these things way more than you have. I'll take 5 veterans who've suffered like that, over 500 non-veterans who have not suffered. And this is my own self, but it's because those people, Dostoevsky says, for great understanding, it takes pain and suffering. People who have suffered for a cause, people who have gone out and set themselves aside, they don't go out there for a political reason. They go out there, they signed up to be part of the military. They're out there on your behalf, on my behalf, but they're not there for their political reason. They're just there they don't have that luxury. That's something they gave up for us.
Yeah.
And one more, Bob Hope.
Go ahead.
Bob Hope was famous for supporting veterans. He did it over decades. Over decades, he supported veterans. He never was in favor of the Vietnam War. And he was still out supporting the veterans all the time. That's different. Supporting people, caring about people is different than a political view.
So important for us to hear and so important for us to understand. Jim, we just got time for one more
Sorry if I get intense, but I don't know any other way to get intense. I don't know how many way when you talk to people who have had these kind of very real injuries and have paid these kind of prices. I don't know how it's not intense.
Yeah. So you get the opportunity to inspire people with the national anthem, with the things that your organization is doing. Just speak to us. What can we do, maybe through your organization or through others, to take a step, just to give hands and feet to our support of our veterans and those who are serving currently?
Well, let's go back to the anthem for just a second. When I hear people say it's just a song, I cringe. Or they want to replace it with some song that's just like some kind of fluffy, whatever. That song means a lot to these people. And what it does, it reminds them of purpose. And when you walk up and say thank you, when you buy them a cup of coffee at a restaurant, now you can do bigger things than that. You can make a contribution to a charity. I have, and I've done some work with different charities as well. I'm writing a book to try to tell the story of what my life really looks like, because I want people to hear the stories of these other people. Say thanks. Buy them a cup of coffee. Share a few words. Don't ruin their breakfast because you're feeling, guilty or needy or something, but you can go up and say hello and share a few words and just show that you care and that you appreciate. It means a lot. Won't take away their pain, but it helps them endure the pain.
Thank you so much, Jim. There's power in thankfulness. There's power in gratitude, and there's power in us doing what we're doing today and tomorrow on Veterans Day. It's a very biblical concept, students, that we remember. that we remember. And today is a day in this month as we remember those who are serving and their families. We have the opportunity to say thank you. We have an opportunity to say a prayer, to be supportive, and I want to encourage us to do that and be a part of that. Can we thank Jim? Let's give him a round of applause, thanking him for being with us today.
Thank you.
And I'm going to invite Mrs. Hockett now to say a prayer as we close our chapel.
So, Wheaton Academy, I want to encourage you. Today is the day before Veterans Day, and tomorrow is Veterans Day. And I just want you to think through some of what Jim shared and some of how you have been blessed because of how others have laid down their lives. And the fact that you are sitting in a school where we are able to have chapel, where we have freedom, where we are able to learn and be together, that is because of the sacrifice of so many people who have gone before us. And I think my greatest concern is that we might forget, or we might somehow think that we sit here and that it's because of us. And I want to encourage you. You heard President Trump's proclamation that the month of November is to be set aside to recognize and honor veterans and their families. We've heard some powerful stories. I want to encourage you that before you leave today, or as you walk through tomorrow, that this won't be a remembering that's just for you, but that you would take a tangible step, that you would think through between now and the end of November, how can you tangibly express your gratitude, express your respect, and express what you have been given, which is so many opportunities, that you would steward those well. Today, I think about my family members who served, and I think about my uncle who served in Vietnam, and for so many years, we weren't allowed to talk about it with him because of the burdens that he bared and what that had done in his life. And just recently, he has become someone who has gone and spoken in schools and has talked with our family. And as we have heard those stories, it is humbling. It is humbling to think about what he did for all of us, what each of these people did. And not only do we want to say thank you to our veterans, but I think if we don't miss it, it can also point us back to Jesus, the one who ultimately laid down his life and sacrificed for us. And as you walk out of here and live faithfully as children of God, that you would not take that for granted, but that you would be grateful, that you would be humble, and that you would steward those opportunities. So that's my challenge to us, and we've just had an amazing opportunity today to get that remembering going. So we just want to thank you for being here, and if you would, let's pray. Heavenly Father, we just come before you, and we know that when we are humble, it means that we understand who we are and we understand who you are, and we realize that life is not about us. God, I just thank you so much for the privilege that we have to be here at Wheaton Academy, that this country, the United States of America, affords us the freedom that we get to enjoy each and every day. And I want to thank you for the many, many men and women who have sacrificed, who have paid a great personal cost for each and every one of us. And Lord, I pray that we would be thankful. I pray that our thanksgiving wouldn't just be in our minds and it wouldn't be for us, but Lord, that you would use this to inspire us to live out of a spirit of thanksgiving. We come before you and we are grateful, God. In your precious and holy name, amen. Have a wonderful day, Wheaton Academy.